We are now on to the fourth entry. And with it now being rebooted, hopefully things can be put on the right path, or at the very least in the right direction with regards to where to go with this next film. Maybe? Maybe. Yeah. Ghostbusters-Frozen Empire is directed this time around by Gil Keane, and once again written by Gil Keane and Jason Reitman. Cast, the new and old, includes Paul Rudd, Carrie, Coon, Finn Wolfhard, Mckenna, Kumail, Nanjiani, Patton, Oswalt, Ernie, Hudson, and Annie Potts. According to IMDb's plot synopsis, when the discovery of an ancient artifact unleashes an evil force, Ghostbusters new and old must join forces to protect their home and save the world from a second ice age. So after the success of Afterlife, I was curious to see where the series would go, especially after Ivan Reitman's tragic death prior to this movie coming out. This was the first time Ivan Reitman had no huge involvement in this film, except a producer credit. Having Gil Keane step into the director's chair and writing the film once again with Jason Reitman, I was interested on what this fourth installment would be, because now that we're on to the fourth film and now that they have reestablished everything, hopefully by now we can get into something that can be a little bit different, to the point of it doesn't feel like repeating all the stuff that we know about Ghostbusters, because at the end of the last movie you kind of felt like it did, but you excused it because it was trying to refamiliarize things, and at the very least the story was at least solid enough to where even if that third act didn't do so well, at the very least it still was able to hold up. Now, having seen the film when it was out back in March, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this has to be possibly one of the most disappointing follow-ups to Afterlife. I mean, how do you manage to make a sequel to a film that tried to not only reboot, but also continue the storyline, and just cannot seem to know where to go next? Really, like, how are you able to not know where to take this now that you've refreshed it? It seems like they're just kind of scrambling around. But before getting into my problems, here are some of the positives. The performances are enjoyable. Again, Rudd, Grace, and Kim are still fun to watch. Just like with how they were when we were introduced to them in Afterlife. They were enjoyable then. They are still the highlights of this film, and still the best aspects of this movie. I'll give credit to Carrie Coon this time around, because I do think that she is a bit better here and given much more to do now that she is part of the Ghostbusters crew and she's doing stuff. And I guess you could say that about Finn Wolfhard, but really I give more credit to Carrie Coon, if anything. The one thing that I want to mention, because I mentioned this, I want to say back in Ghostbusters 2 review about Ernie Hudson and his involvement. Because speaking of him, I do appreciate that the film is giving Ernie Hudson more to do than both of the original and its sequel did. It clearly shows that they feel like they've underutilized him, and thankfully they have put him a part of the story. They make him a key figure within this story, and he is helping out the Ghostbusters and helping finance all their stuff. So to see this character get more of a spotlight that is, I feel like, way overdue is amazing. I'm glad to see him still kind of be the fun part of seeing one of the old castmates. Also, Aykroyd is also fun to watch. He still has the same energy that he's always been bringing to his character, and that's always a plus to see returning characters still got it after many years. So, and both him and Ernie Hudson have a good relationship, good rapport with each other, because clearly both of them, having had worked with each other on the previous two films, really shows how much that they truly are passionate about this franchise. Also, for both Kumail Nanjiani and Patton Oswalt, they're fine, but the material they're given isn't much. And as for Finn Wolfhard, he's just Again, he's not terrible, but he is just kind of being Mike from Stranger Things. Again, there's nothing interesting about Trevor. He's, again, like I said in my Afterlife review, he is essentially just Peter Venkman. Okay, let's be real with each other, alright? I do think that the music is entertaining. Composer Dario Marilani knows when to balance Elmer Bernstein's score and bring something new to the series. It doesn't feel like what Rob Simonson's score that he had brought to Afterlife. It feels like it's completely own revamped version. The visual effects look amazing. Just like with Afterlife, the ghosts look stunning and creative. The film also utilizes practical effects very well. Now, I will mention Slimer in a bit later, but what I will give credit to here is that Slimer is practical. They said that they used all the practical effects that they used for the original Slimer, because it is the original Slimer that they used for this movie. And so, yeah, they tried so much to keep it having some of the practical elements and still utilizing the visual effects that they used in Afterlife to be brought into this, and I'm happy that it still holds up very nicely. The production is great. Seeing the sets and props are stunning throughout. In this area, the production crew always knows how to make everything look and feel like Ghostbusters. A lot of love, a lot of passion went into making this feel like a continuation. Still shows on full display that every little detail that the crew and the production team had to put together, it all looks amazing. You know, I always, production and crew members, they are always the MVP when it comes to movies. It clearly shows with it. The cinematography is stellar. Cinematographer Eric Steelberg still captures the eerie and whimsical feeling that the Ghostbusters films just know how to do. He also knows how to capture the intimate moments very well. And I'm very glad that he still captured them in a way that makes audiences really still care about the Ghostbusters as a whole. What it means. You know, it doesn't just represent an institution where, you know, they capture ghosts. It's about a family. It's about people that want to do right and do the good of New York. That I still always enjoy, and just, again, both the conversations that characters have between each other works very well still here. Besides that, I think this film is a complete mess. Through and through, this movie just feels like something's not right. So here are some of the negatives. The story is all over the place. It feels like Gil King and Jason Reitman are having a hard time trying to do new things for the series and still trying to please fans. Its concept is interesting but not executed well. Because the beginning of this movie had promise, and I don't know what it is, and I guess this could be seen as a separate problem, which I will get into soon. But the story just is lacking here. There seems to be like something's holding it back from wanting to go in a new direction, but it is being held back on those certain things that I will mention in a bit. And even without those things, I just think that they didn't think the story through, or the ideas that they had just they're not executed in any regard. It feels half-baked. It feels like it's just rushed. This story just feels like it needed more time, and I think a little bit more drafts to it. The nostalgia is overcrowding. Having so many references of the first film is now becoming exhausting. It is. It is becoming exhausting to the point of it is becoming so obvious that because fans are so clamoring the old days of Ghostbusters. And listen, I'm a Star Wars fan. I get it. I hear that complaint a lot, and I have my own thoughts and opinions on that. But I can feel it with this. From the mini Stay Puffs, they make a return. Why? I don't know. Walter Peck is in this. He's still the same guy that we met 30 to almost now 40 years ago. He's still the same way. He has not changed. He still hates the Ghostbusters. Why? I don't know. Because he's Walter Peck. To Slimer and the Librarian Ghost. Why are they there? I don't know. But hey, you know what? We're back in New York. We might as well bring back all these characters, even though they serve nothing to the plot. Especially the Librarian Ghost serves no purpose. It's holding the film back from doing new things. And I have my issues with those new things, but at the very least they are new ideas. When they keep on relying on these moments, it severely hurts the film. Like, the first few minutes of this movie worked, and then once it starts showing up with one reference after another, after another, after another, it becomes endless, and it just gets to a point of they just don't know when to stop. The direction is unfocused. Director Gil King has a hard time of balancing the new stuff by stopping the film to make so many references. And aside from the first 30 minutes, like I said, the film seems to struggle on what to do. Gil King, he's so caught up with how to balance all of this and writing that I just don't think he knows what to fit with regards to its tone. Because it'll be scary one moment, and then I feel like the comedy aspect starts to kind of outweigh it a lot of the times. It is starting to show how much this series needs to really go past the old stuff and move forward. And same with the direction, in that Gil King is so reliant on those references that it just halts the movie. It stops it to make those references. And they so scream, remember this. And it's so obvious that it becomes insane. The subplots are ridiculous. One subplot involving a ghost that Phoebe could have worked, like she becomes friends with a ghost. But the problem is that it would work if it wasn't so predictable. Because I feel like once you get introduced to this ghost and what this ghost is, I feel like you kind of know where this is going to go. And it's very obvious, and it's not written all that well that it just becomes so blatantly obvious on what's going to happen. Another subplot involving Kumail Nanjiani's character. Guys, I'm going to just straight up say it. We are now straight up ripping off other properties. This movie is now straight up ripping off Avatar: The Last Airbender. I swear to you, they are ripping off other properties. And it just does not work. And it becomes apparent when you look at what the Ghostbusters are, and then you see what they're doing here, and it just does not mesh well. You're just thinking to yourself, why are we doing this? Why are we now throwing in something that is so blatantly obviously stealing something from something else? And listen, I'm not saying that films can't share things, but when it becomes blatantly obvious what you're trying to do, it becomes very apparent that you're just now taking something from another property. And it makes no sense. I understand Ghostbusters doesn't have logic, but for God's sakes, man, this just throws logic out the window. Like, completely. And again, I still feel like the characters are still copy-paste versions of the original characters. I mean, when Finn Wolfhard is just, again, like I said, being Peter Venkman, yet they still bring in Murray, who contributes nothing to this movie. What does he contribute? He contributes nothing to this movie. And so I sit back and I'm like, why are you here? And I feel like he's only there because, oh wait, he's a Ghostbuster. We have to bring him in. And you could say the same with Annie Potts, which I know it sucks, but I'll give her some credit in that she'll add some funny banter to the film. Murray just kind of just shows up for like one scene, is not in it for the rest of the movie until near the third act. That's it. Why? Because why not? They are just the same characters. That is the thing I have been repeating, you guys. They are just now becoming so much copy-paste versions of the original cast. It's surprising that they cannot do something else with these characters. Despite its potential, Ghostbusters-Frozen Empire is just a letdown and a frustrating film. The series seems to be stuck on what to do. I know I was saying how much there's so much potential where to go now that, after Afterlife. Now I'm saying that, yeah, they're stuck. they don't know where to go. Hopefully it can find its footing soon rather than going down this path where it is just constantly referencing after referencing after referencing after referencing, because it just seems to be clear that that's what they're stuck on. So, yes, I'm going to give Ghostbusters Frozen Empire 5 out of 10. It is such an average and huge letdown. Maybe Ghostbusters fans will like this, but guys, I'm telling you, I think there needs to be more. There needs to be something else to this series that needs to work, because I just don't think relying on references to the first two Ghostbusters is not enough. It really is not. It may be something different with something like Star Wars. Here, when it's just relying on two movies, like, what else can you do? Like, you gotta do something more with this. Now that we are done with the Ghostbusters series, we can now head first into Legendary's Monsterverse, starting in the chronological order. I know I could go in release order, but I'm going in chronological order, starting with Fallen Skull Island. So yeah, look forward to those reviews. Another movie TV show reviews coming soon.